Hello, lovely people. It's me, Nicola, temporarily out of the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room because the living room is so much brighter and sunnier. And if I show you all the yarny stuff up here, it means I don't have to carry it all downstairs. But first, we should check out the hair. It's really vibrant right now. On Saturday, I went to the salon and I spent 2 hours there. Now, usually, let's say 99% of the time, I have done my own hair color. This time, I decided to get it cut and colored at the salon. And heck, it was expensive. Next time, it'll be a at-home dye job. However, it's done and it's crazy bright. It's blue, but looks more purple right now, I think. And I did shampoo it quite vigorously yesterday morning to try and get some of the stain off my head, because there's a little bit of staining on the skin still. So it will calm down a little bit, but I feel like I'm back to being myself again now that I've got the hair color on. I felt a little bit dull and boring before. And yeah, I've been coloring my hair crazy colors for so long now. It just feels that that's my normal. And being my natural color is not normal anymore. So that's fun. Yarn projects. Let's move on to the yarn projects. So I actually knitted and crocheted so much yesterday that my wrist, which I broke years ago snowboarding, 2018, and there's a titanium plate in there. If I do overdo things, it does tend to hurt, and I haven't hurt it in a long time. But the excessive knitting and crocheting on the weekend definitely did it. Here's the progress on the third Nottawasaga cowl. Nottawasaga Buff is what the pattern is called. It's definitely coming out even wider than the second grey one. Hopefully it'll still fit well. I started with the neon orange, went on to the yellow and then the pink. I did the ribbing and then 7 rounds of the orange, 7 rounds of the yellow. So I'm going to do 7 rounds of the pink, then go back to the yellow and then back to the orange, because I didn't want the pink and the orange touching each other. They're too similar. I think it would be ridiculous to say they probably clash because it's bright anyway, right? It couldn't really be any brighter. So that's fun. It's coming along nicely. I'm not sure how much of this yarn that I have is going to go into this cowl, but if there was enough to knit a beanie afterwards, I would probably knit a beanie to go with it. And also what I would probably do is do what I did with a couple of other beanies that I made a while back. Just leave them downtown for whoever needs it. Whoever needs a bit of warmth to pick up and keep it. Because I won't be wearing those myself. So that's that. The other thing is I'm up to date on Mr. Stitch's Adventure Cowl. No, it's Adventure Scarf. Mr. Stitch's Adventure Scarf is Cancer Journey. This is what it's looking like so far. If you haven't seen this before, if you're new to my channel, then what I'm doing is I'm tracking in a similar way that people do temperature scarves. I am doing a Cancer Journey scarf for my husband. So this is purple, where we had the bad news that he was diagnosed with cancer, and then blues are rest days. So you can see that each weekend I'm doing 2 rounds of the blue. Red is blood work, sometimes other related things. Green is radiation appointments. That's 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Rust, solid rust line is chemo. That's once a week on Tuesdays. Gold days are good days. We had a good day when we heard that the tumor was shrinking, but there's a purple day in there, which are the crappy days when he feels kind of bad, and that was when they changed his chemo drug to a different one, and he felt pretty bad that day. And then the alternating rust and green, is reviews. So twice a week he has a review with his medical team to see how he's doing. And I think that's mostly it. There was an eyelet row in there, which I think was a speech pathologist, and I didn't have a colour for speech pathology. Yeah. I mean, I love it. I love the colours in this, and I think it'll act as an interesting record later on. And hopefully he will actually wear it one day when he's looking back from a healthy, after the fact perspective. And yeah, every time he wears it, he can be grateful that that's all behind him. At the moment, he's right in the thick of it. We're just getting to the end of week 4 now. So 3 weeks to go. He's not doing too badly. He is having problems with his taste. His sense of taste is off now. And he has to kind of rinse his mouth out with this new medication. Is it a medication? I guess so, which helps with the mucositis, which makes his nerve endings really sore. So he rinses his mouth out with a special stuff in the hope that it will make eating less painful. I just got sidetracked because it felt so thick and chunky in there, and it's all my ends all the way up the inside there. Anyway, what was I saying? I digress. Oh, my legs are going to sleep now. So yeah, he can manage porridge and liquids. The smoothies I'm making him, he's drinking them, but it's sort of a grit your teeth and chug it down, because he doesn't really have an appetite and he doesn't enjoy the food at all. Whatever I make him, it's just a case of eating because he has to. So that's that so far. So I have my beautiful beach bag that I made that's got all that yarn in, the Lion Brand Heartland. My neon cowl, that's also sitting next to the couch. And then I've got my beautiful pink bag with the applique pumpkin on, full of yarn. It's only when you get started that you think, oh, I actually don't really have that much of a variety of colours to go into these granny squares, but I still think they're looking lovely. And there's just something so satisfying about crocheting basic granny squares. Now this Smarty pants pattern, hang on a minute. The pattern I am sort of using. Okay, I guess I should explain. This Crochet Smarty pants pattern from Yarnspirations is written specifically for their new all-in-one granny square yarn, the new Red Heart all-in-one granny square, which is supposed to give you about 14 granny squares per ball, and the dyeing is exactly supposed to be spaced right so that you can crochet a square without changing your yarn, cutting it, weaving in ends. You just should have just 2 ends to cut, not 2 ends to cut, 2 ends to weave in per ball. And I've seen all sorts of videos online where people have been struggling to get the colour to land right at the right spot because the tension might be off, and then they have to keep on doing stuff. And really, when they promise you something like this sort of yarn where you can just pick up the yarn, follow the pattern they give you, and then have to rip back over and over, it really just, it takes the joy out of it, doesn't it? So I'm using the stash. Excuse me while I get my brain switched back on and my teeth back in. What I was trying to say, and I'll probably have edited all that waffle out because I'm going to start again. So I have made over the weekend 8 squares? Yeah, 8 squares. And I'm trying to go with a simple idea of light in the middle, then dark, then lighter, then dark, and then black. Now, I don't know if I have enough black to do 50 odd squares, but I do have some grey. So if I run out, or when I run out of the black, I will go onto the grey. And then when I join them together for the pants, I'll just distribute them evenly. I always find granny squares do look kind of nice if you have the same colour around the outside, because it looks like a stained glass window, doesn't it? And it looks nice and cohesive. But I really don't want to be going out and buying more yarn just for this. Whole point is to use the stash. My squares, I decided on 5 rounds, even though they're coming out a bit smaller than the pattern is asking for. The all-in-one granny square yarn is supposed to yield a square that's about 6 inches, and that's what the pattern is written for, and these are 5.5. So I think all that's going to happen is that I will have smaller squares and probably then need to make the larger size. That's all. So that will be 56 squares. And I'm sure I have got plenty yarn to do that with. And that will be another stash buster. Feels so good to use older stash. I don't know how old my oldest stash item is, but it's not that old. I do like to, review the stash every now and again. The last few years, I've actually acquired very little. I used to, before COVID, buy more then, and I used to also make more because I wasn't into the sewing then. And so my focus was more on knitting and crochet. I love to be productive. My Ravelry project pages for some of the years were like 60 to 80 items for the year. It's way fewer than that now. But that's okay, because I'm still getting enjoyment out of my yarn and my yarn crafts. I'm just not tied to beating the previous year's total or anything like that. I was out walking with a friend and having tea with her this morning, and we were talking about how a large stash of yarn or fabric can make you feel kind of pressured. And I get that. I don't want to have so much yarn or fabric that it makes me feel stressed or that I'm not enjoying it, that I'm not enjoying having it. I know I said in the last vlog that it's great to have a stash because you can shop it when you want to make something. It might be the middle of the night and you want to make something, and you've got stash right there on the shelf. You don't have to run out if you want to make something. But I wouldn't want to have tons and tons of it. I've got those few little cubbies that you see behind me when I'm doing my videos downstairs. And there's quite a bit there. I can't remember what year it was, but I decided at one point that I would start buying more mindfully, and that if I wanted to buy more yarn, it couldn't be 100% acrylic. It had to have some plant fiber content. And that was a brilliant way of getting me to think twice and not just say, okay, I want to buy every single color of that range of yarn, which is what I used to do. When I discovered willow wash worsted, which was lovely, in fact. Oh yeah. When I discovered the willow wash worsted, which is what I used for this blanket, this is a groovy gan. I bought, don't look at my tails that are sticking out on those stripes because I never wove them in properly. I bought every single color of the range, just one ball of everything. And I like doing that. So I used to like doing that. In fact, in one way, I would still like to do that because it's so hard sometimes to decide on the color you want when you can't really tell the exact shade on a screen. When I was looking at the Scapious Truly Scrumptious Aran for making a sweater, it took so long for me to decide which colors to buy. And even when I bought them, I still had a hard time figuring out how to put them in the sweater. Actually, in the end, I only put the green and the pink in. That that little bit of yarn that I said in that last video looked like baby poop color. That was the last of the honeycomb crunch color from the Scapious Truly Scrumptious that I ended up using for some cabled fingerless mitts. And they're lovely and cozy, and I love the color in the mitts. It's just that those two little oddments that I had left over, when mixed in with my other worsted weight scraps, just looked like baby poop. It was funny. Speaking of which, I just realized they were in my handbag on the sofa there. So, you know, in real life, the honeycomb crunch is sort of a mustard color, and to be fair to the yarn, maybe not so much baby poop when it's in daylight. This pattern, by the way, was the Atlantic Ristas, I think. Found it on Ravelry, Atlantic Ristas, and really, really easy, basic cable pattern. If you're new to cables, it might be a good one to start with. And this yarn is really lovely. It's 50% recycled polyester, I think, from plastic bottles, and 50% acrylic. Really squishy. It's, in theory, a worsted weight, but definitely more of an Aran feeling to bulky. So that was a major digression off into talking about baby poop again. I don't know what's with me. I got to show you this book I bought this morning. When I went out this morning, I was meeting my friend at the bookshop where her daughter works, and so I had time to browse around, and I found a book. Now, this is the book, and I'll tell you why I wanted to get a board book like this in a minute. So it's a board book, so the baby will probably end up gumming it to bits, but that's okay. And it's for obviously my niece and her newish baby. Oh wow, he's like 3 months old now. So I've seen these before in the bookshop, and they've got quite a few different ones. They've got a moose, they've got a raccoon, they've got a red panda, even a unicorn. And I thought, no, I'm going to go for something that's actually real. Okay, yeah, someone out there is going to say, but unicorns are real too. I know it. But I was also looking at it with a view to crocheting an amigurumi to go with it. And so when I saw the octopus, I knew that was the one, because I thought I can easily find a pattern on Ravelry for a crocheted octopus. And at some point I can send it over to my niece, the book and the toy together, for my little great nephew. Yes, great nephew. When my sister's stepson and his wife had their baby a few years back, for a few years there, I was crocheting a toy that went with the book. The first gift I sent them was the Very Hungry Caterpillar related. And so I crocheted a blanket and a cocoon and sent the book. And then for the next few years, I sent a book that I had found that I could crochet something to go with, like a crocodile or whatever. I can't remember what they all were now. Once she got to 5, I kind of thought, okay, that's it. The gifts are stopping now. She's old enough. She's got loads of stuff. She doesn't need anything else from me. But now, of course, I've got a great nephew to make things for. So I guess at some point soon, I'm going to have to crochet an octopus. And I like the fact that octopuses have the tentacles, which are nice and easy for little hands, little baby hands to hold on to. So I'm looking forward to that. And now we're back in the sewing room. And I know the title of this vlog is going to be the yarny one, but of course there's still been some sewing. How could there not? Yesterday I had a little fun with some vinyl. Now, a while back I made some of those little pyramid bags. The island where I grew up in used to have milk. When I was a kid, we had the milk delivered in something called Tetra Packs, and they were little pyramid or 3D triangle shaped pouches, and they would sit in a cute kind of little way on your countertop, and you'd snip the top corner off and pour them on your cereal or whatever. And I don't remember them being particularly practical when it came to kind of trying to reseal them for the fridge. Maybe I think we might have folded them down a little bit, like the top part where you snipped it, maybe you folded it down. And, you know, they weren't very practical for stacking either. I think on the milkman's cart, of course, they used to come around in a little cart, and sometimes I'd jump on the milkman's cart and I'd run the cartons of milk up to the doorstep around the neighborhood, and I get 50 pence for my troubles or something like that. Yeah, I'm sure they stacked well in the milk crates, but in the fridge, not so much. However, it's kind of a fun shape. And I hadn't made it for a really long time, and I wanted to make some vinyl ones. So super easy, not lined. And I had to make myself a little mock-up of one out of paper first to realize, oh yeah, the proportions are really easy. You just need to cut either 2 squares or a rectangle that's twice as long as it's wide. Okay, figured that out easily enough. In fact, after, of course, not before, but after I had played around with a couple of options, I went and looked online, and there's a channel called The Hungry Hippie, I think she's called, and she has a store, and she has a few tutorials on her channel. And she has one for jelly vinyl. I've never felt jelly vinyl. I have no idea what that's like. But it basically confirmed that I was doing it right. Yay. So the first one I did, I thought, oh, okay, it's vinyl. It doesn't need to be finished off, so I'll try a raw edge one. So I made one out of this blue vinyl. I think it's a scrap of marine vinyl that I had. And I left the seams on the outside. And it's okay, but the zipper at the top looks crappy, I find. It works, but that's not something, I don't think that's something I'd want to sell looking like that. So then I tried one where I put the seam allowances on the inside. And that came out pretty well. The one thing with the unlined versions of these is you do get to see a little bit of raw edge of zipper right at the top, and they don't always zip all the way to the top. Ooh, fluffy nail. Sorry, getting sidetracked there. And yeah, it's not perfect, but they are so easy, and the one with the seam allowances on the inside definitely does look a lot tidier. So then I watched the Hungry Hippie video, figured it was fine. This size is about 3.5 inches across the base from one corner to the other. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to be using up a bunch of small zippers, I did have a handful of zippers that were about 6 inches long. And I thought, okay, I'll cut my good vinyl at 5 by 10 and then make a little batch of those. And they came out about 4.5 inches across from one corner to another, and I think they came out really fun. Love this vinyl. You've probably seen me use this before. And I put tabs and little swivel clasps on there. And I did try attaching my label to the inside. I was too nervous about using a particularly hot iron on it, So I did try with a pressing cloth and it just didn't stay stuck, so I gave up. Doesn't matter. This zipper here has a really nice puller because it's actually an invisible zipper, so the teeth are on the inside, so it makes a very neat result on the flat part, but not so neat at the top corner. So there was that one which had the invisible zipper, and then I made one with just a regular black zipper and another one with a regular black zipper and one with a grey and one with an off-white and another black. So that was a nice little batch of 6 little pouches. And I like that they zip closed. You could hang that off a backpack or a belt loop or something else, and it would keep in whatever you put in it. It wouldn't pop out. And, you know, you could put anything in there, really. And they're fun and quick to make, really quick to make. So I recommend that Hungry Hippie tutorial if you want to go see how she makes them. Honestly, if you could see the state of my sewing room right now, you'd be disgusted. The table is full of clutter. The floor is full of stuff. I was using so much double-sided sticky tape in the last couple of days and trimming off bits of zipper and all sorts of stuff. And the garbage bag is across the room. And then I got to the point where I was just throwing the garbage on the floor. Honestly, I shouldn't admit to that, should I? That's terrible. I will pick it up shortly and I will vacuum my floor again. One of my friends is like one of my most avid fans. She has the notifications on, so she's usually one of the first people to watch my videos and give it a click, a like click, or make a comment. And she was over for coffee the other morning with some other friends, and she laughed at how often I say, oh, at first I had to tidy up my sewing room because, you know, it was a mess. Yeah, Kathy, it's a mess again. The funny thing was that little bag I made with the upcycled denim and the chenille inside and the grommet on the front. When she came in the door the other day, I was like, your scarf looks like my bag lining. And she had a very, very similar thing. And the funny thing is, I made a bag she's probably going to like today because I used that chenille again. I think this is probably almost the end of it because it was only a remnant to start with and it had some holes across the middle of it. So obviously I cut the holy part out. And I just cut the best part of this out and put in a zipper, boxed the bottoms. The lining is pretty plain. This fabric I bought a lot of in different colorways a long time ago, and it's a great neutral. And so that's the lining. I didn't put a wristlet on this one. I think the reason being that the scrap I had left wasn't long enough to make a wristlet. I did put an antique gold or bronze D-ring on it. I was going to put a silver one on, and then I thought, wait a second, the bronze would look much better with this fabric. So that's what I did, and it feels so soft. This might be a weird thing to say, but when you're sewing this stuff, it feels like you're sewing up a cat. It literally feels like you're stroking a cat, this stuff. It's lovely. And then the other one I made today was a pink fluffy one. And I did a wristlet for this one. Oh, what stuck to it? I got a ton of stuff stuck to this. This pink fluffy stuff attracts the bits. Be good when it leaves my sewing room. But yeah, this wristlet was super bulky to sew though, of course. I used quite a bit of double-sided tape to hold that all together while I sewed a line down it. This is really bulky here, but it works. And this part, of course, sewing this D-ring tab into the side seam. Oh, let's just say my machine wasn't very happy. I did not box the bottoms on this one, and it's slightly bigger than the animal print chenille. And again, it's the same print, but in a different colorway for the lining. More of a purpley than a pink, but I think the zipper kind of pulls it all together, sort of a lavender color. They didn't have quite that shade of pink in the zipper. I was really happy about that. I think those worked out brilliantly. So one of the things I did today is I popped over to a lady's house. I've known her from a distance for a really long time, but never really got to know her that well. She's a Facebook friend because we used to go to the same group together. And a while back, she was asking me whether I would be able to handle her fabric and other stash items if something happens to her. So I went around to her house today for the first time, and she was showing me the sewing machines she's got and some other stuff, and she gave me some bits and pieces that she's decluttering, including some denim. Now, I haven't even looked at this denim yet, so we're going to have a little look at it together. I've cleared the decks a little bit so I can see what's in this bag. Okay, there's a bit of nice heavy canvas. There's a pair of jeans legs. Awesome. Some more jeans legs. This is really nice denim. There's no stretch to that at all. I love it. Another pair of legs. Sort of a denim bag, which is similar to the one that the jeans are stashed in. Another bit of canvas. What looks like some upholstery fabric. Oh, and a little bit of denim yardage. Oh, that's going to be helpful. That's great. Some other pieces. And this denim bag here. That's fantastic. Now, I also brought home a box of other things from her. So let's just toss that on the floor and take a look at some of the gems. Now, depending on your generation, you may or may not be familiar with this, but this stuff is transfer paper for embroidery. My mother did quite a lot of that. You used to be able to iron the pattern onto the fabric you wanted to embroider, and then you would use it as your guideline for embroidery. How fun is that? So I said I would take it, and I thought, you know, that maybe one day I will do some more embroidery. Hot iron transfer embroidery designs. Oh wow, there's loads in here. Loads of little bits. This is the sort of thing that my mum did on tablecloths. She would do flowers and leaves and things. yeah, lots of little goodies and little treasures from the past in that box. So I'll be looking forward to figuring out how to use some of them in my crafting. And so we come to the moment you've all been waiting for, I know. The giveaway prize giving. In vlog 25, I did a little announcement that I had hit 500 subscribers. Yay! And I decided, in order to celebrate, I needed to have a little giveaway. And I had just made a batch of these continuous zipper pouches. And I decided that one of them should be a prize for one of you lovely viewers. So I went back and looked under the post and I wrote down everybody's names who'd left a comment on that vlog. And I wrote a little slip of paper out for each person, folded them, put them in a bowl, and asked Mr. Stitches to pick one out. He picked out the name Cynthia Erkenbrack. I hope I'm saying that right. Cynthia, you have won the bag and whatever extra little flat items I might be able to slip in an envelope. I'll have a look around and see if there's something small I can add to that. And thank you, everyone, obviously, for commenting and subscribing and liking and supporting me. But Cynthia, if you would email me at stitchesandslapdashery@gmail.com. The address is in the description box every time I publish a vlog, so you don't have to remember that. Let me know your mailing address. I'll send it to wherever you live, anywhere in the world. And thank you again. So I think that wraps it up for today. I think I am done with sewing for today. And I think a really, really good idea would be, before I go and make myself and Mr. Stitches a warm milky drink pre-bedtime, I think I'm going to go and grab the vacuum cleaner and give this carpet a good old vacuum, because yeah, if I leave it messy like this, I end up trailing it all the bits up the stairs anyway, and I just make more work for myself, don't I? So it's definitely time for a between the project cleanup, which, yes, Kathy, it has to happen frequently because I am a messy crafter. What can I say? So thanks everybody once again for watching, and I will see you again very soon.